Hi, everybody, and welcome to Science Time. Hey, what's up? My name is Ylac Duque, your teacher for the day, and today I'm going to talk about a very serious matter, a very scary disease. I don't want to dwell too deeply about the matter first because I'm going to give that to an older version of me, which has nerdy hair and stuff. So, yeah, enjoy. Imagine sitting in a dark room where dark figures lurk behind the shadows. You can't see or hear anything, but you're filled with terror, not knowing what it is that is with you on that very same room. You sweat excessively as you try to look around, struggling to make sense of whatever's behind the darkness. Then a sudden chill caught you by surprise. You felt a cold hand grab you by the foot and just rips it apart. Hearts pounding as you try and struggle your way out of this predicament. But all of a sudden, you are rendered immobile, unable to move and speak. Hopelessly, you stare into the abyss, knowing that your fate's settled as you lie on the ground. All you can feel is the coldness that surrounds you, like a monster that has swallowed you whole. You're sure you'll die, but you do not completely know when. Now imagine how frightening it would be if that experience would happen to you. But we all know something like that only happens on horror films and TV shows, right? But what if I told you that some people really do experience that kind of horror every day of their life? That there's something inside of them that's slowly taking their life, ripping their souls out of their body. ALS, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a type of illness that some say takes away your ability to exist. Now, ALS, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects the nerve cells in our brain and in our spinal cord. Amyotrophic comes from the Greek language a, which means no, myo, which refers to our muscles, and trophic, which means nourishment. So it means no muscle nourishment. So when a muscle has no nourishment, it atrophies or wastes away. Now, lateral identifies the areas in a person's spinal cord where portions of the nerve cells that signal and control the muscles are located. As this area degenerates, it leads to scarring or hardening, also known as sclerosis, in the region. Motor neurons reach from the brain to the spinal cord and from the spinal cord to the muscles throughout the body. Now, the progressive degeneration of the motor neurons in ALS eventually leads to their demise. Because when the motor neurons die, the ability of the brain to initiate or control muscle movements is lost. Now, with voluntary muscle action progressively affected, people may lose the ability to speak, eat, move, and even breathe. Now, the motor nerves that are affected when you have ALS are the motor neurons that provide voluntary movements and muscle control. Examples of voluntary movements are making the effort to reach for a smartphone or step off a curb. These actions are controlled by the muscles in the arms and in our legs. There are two different types of ALS, the sporadic and familial. Sporadic, which is the most common form of the disease, constitutes 90 to 95% of all cases. It may affect anyone, anywhere. Now, familial ALS, or FALS, FALS, accounts for 5 to 10% of all cases. Familial ALS means that the disease is inherited, passed on to the offspring. In those families, there is a 50% chance each offspring will inherit the gene mutation and may develop the disease. So in 10 babies, there are 5 that can possibly inherit the mutated genes. French neurologist Jean-Martin Charcot discovered the disease in 1869. Now let's go to the symptoms. The initial symptoms of ALS can be quite varied in different people. One person may have trouble grasping a pen or lifting a coffee cup, while another person may experience a change in vocal pitch when speaking. ALS is typically a disease that involves a gradual onset. Now, the rate at which ALS progresses can be quite variable from one person to another, although the mean survival time with ALS is 3 to 5 years, although many people live 5 to 10 or more. Now, symptoms can begin in the muscles that control speech and swallowing, or in the hands, arms, legs, or feet. Not all people with ALS experience the same symptoms or the same sequences of patterns of progression. However, progressive weakness and paralysis are universally experienced. Gradual onset, painless, progressive muscle weakness is the most common initial symptoms in ALS. Other early symptoms vary but can include tripping, dropping things, abnormal fatigues in the arm and or legs, slurred speech, muscle cramps and twitches, and or accessible period of leisure. This slurred speech is so when the breathing muscles become affected, ultimately, people with the disease will need permanent ventilatory support to assist with breathing. Since ALS attacks only motor neurons, the sense of sight, touch, hearing, taste, and smell are not affected. For many people, muscles of the eyes and bladder are generally not affected. So you're just one goop of flesh and bones with conscience. You cannot move or speak. You can only think. You are alone in your mind. Tell me how frightening that can be. So current experts do not know precisely what causes ALS. It can affect anyone regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, or geographical location. In the case of familial ALS, however, in addition to genetic factors contributing to the heritability of familial ALS, researchers are investigating several possible causes of ALS, including disorganized immune response. The immune system may attack some of the body's cells, potentially killing nerve cells. Chemical imbalance. People with ALS often have higher levels of glutamate, a chemical messenger in the brain near the motor neurons. And glutamate in high quantities is known to be toxic to nerve cells. Mishandling of proteins. If proteins are not processed correctly by nerve cells, abnormal proteins could potentially accumulate and cause the nerve cells to die. So according to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, or the NINDS, researchers are also investigating whether environmental factors play a role in the development of ALS. For example, a study reported that military personnel deployed in the Gulf region during the 1991 war were more likely to develop ALS than military personnel deployed elsewhere. So the environmental and lifestyle factors likely play a role in the development of ALS, but no conclusive evidence is available to support making specific changes to decrease the risk of disease. Some possible links have been found between ALS and exposure to mechanical or electric trauma, military service, high levels of exercise, high levels of agricultural chemicals, and high levels of a variety of heavy metals. MRI scans can also be used to locate problems such as herniated discs that causes symptoms similar to ALS. Two types of tests that may be used to diagnose ALS are called the electromyography or EMG and nerve conduction study or the NCS. These tests can detect electrical energy in muscles and the ability of nerves to send signals respectively. EMG and NCS can be used to support ALS diagnosis and to rule out peripheral neuropathy or peripheral nerve damage, and myopathy or muscle disease. Magnetic resonance imaging or the MRI does not reveal evidence of ALS, but can be used to show other problems that could be causing the patient's symptoms. These problems include spinal cord tumors and herniated disc in the neck. As well as the conditions that I have mentioned, the following medical problems can also produce similar symptoms to ALS, and thus may be needed to be ruled out during the diagnostic process. So first is the human immunodeficiency virus, or the HIV, Lyme disease, multiple sclerosis, polio, and West Nile virus. The presence of both upper and lower neuron symptoms is believed to be a strong indicator of ALS. Upper motor neurons include stiffness and resistance to movement in the muscles and brisk reflexes, while lower motor neurons symptoms include weakness, muscle atrophy, and twitching. Now let's go to the treatment. Recent years have brought a wealth of new scientific understanding regarding the physiology of this disease. There is currently one FDA-approved drug, riluzole, that modestly slows the progression of ALS in some people. Although there is not yet a cure or treatment that halts or reverses ALS, scientists have made significant progress in learning more about this disease. In addition, people with ALS may experience a better quality of life in living with this disease by participating in support groups and attending an ALS Association Certified Treatment Center of Excellence or a recognized treatment center. Such centers provide a national standards of best practice multidisciplinary care to help manage the symptoms of the disease and assist people living with ALS to maintain as much independence as possible for as long as possible. But I think that's only in America. I don't know if there's such organizations here in the Philippines, but yeah, you can join that if you have ALS. According to the American Academy of Neurology's Practice Parameter Update, studies have shown that participation in a multidisciplinary ALS clinic may prolong survival and improve quality of life. Notable individuals who have been diagnosed with ALS include Hall of Fame pitcher Jim "Catfish" Hunter, Toro bassist Mike Porcaro, Senator Jacob Javits, actor David Niven, Sesame Street creator John Stone, boxing champion Ezzard Charles, and NBA Hall of Fame basketball player George Yardley, golf caddy Bruce Edwards, musician lead Belly Huddy Ledbetter, and photographer Eddie Adams, entertainer Dennis Day, jazz musician Charles Mingus, former Vice President of the United States Henry A. Wallace, U.S. Army General Maxwell Taylor, and NFL football players Steve Gleason, O.J. Briggs, and Tim Shaw. And the most popular of them all is the baseball's greatest, Lou Gehrig. Henry Louis Lou or Buster Gehrig was an American baseball first baseman who played 17 seasons in Major League Baseball for the New York Yankees from 1923 to 1939. Gehrig was renowned for his prowess as a hitter and for his durability, a trait which earned him his nickname the Iron Horse. He was an All-Star 7 consecutive times, a Triple Crown winner once, an American League Most Valuable Player twice, and a member of 6 World Series champion teams. He had a career of 340 batting average, 632 slugging average, and a 447 on-base average. He hit 493 home runs and had a 1,995 runs batted in. I don't really know much about baseball because baseball's not really a thing here in the Philippines, but I think that that's an impressive career record. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame and was the first MLB player, Major League Baseball player, to have his uniform number retired. However, Gehrig's streak ended in 1939 after he was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, a disorder that is now commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The disease has forced him to retire at age of 36 and was the cause of his death 2 years later. The pathos of his farewell from baseball was capped off by his iconic "luckiest man on the face of the earth" speech at the original Yankee Stadium.
First baseman Lou Gehrig hung up an amazing mark by playing in 2,130 consecutive games. Then a fatal disease attacked baseball's Iron Man. In Yankee Stadium, touched to tears by the tribute, Gehrig made his last public appearance.
For the past 2 weeks, you've been reading about a bad brag. Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. When you look around, wouldn't you consider it privilege to associate yourself with such a fine-looking man as are standing in uniform in this ballpark today? That I might have been given a bad break, but I've got an awful lot to live for. Thank you.
That is all about ALS. I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you next week after I come back from my vacation. So, toodles. Oh, wait. If you have any question about ALS, you can just email me at my email address. I'll just put it right here, I guess, somewhere here on my hands. And please do contact me if you have any questions. And thank you again.